Hello, fellow academics, and welcome to the second episode of our Beginner's Guide. Last time we have created the basic infrastructure for our city and made it to 1,000 population, so this is great. We actually still have quite a big influx of people, but one thing that you will notice, well, first of all, we're still losing some money. While it's not a lot, it is definitely enough. We had kind of gone in there last time and reduced some of our service buildings, and that will help you. But in the long run, obviously, you cannot run a city like this. So with our sliders currently in place, we need to keep an eye especially on water and electricity, as this will run out relatively quickly. But more importantly, when it runs out and we don't fix it immediately, our citizens will definitely want to leave. So one thing that is important in City Skylines 2 is this happiness meter that you see on the bottom right here. You want to keep them at least in the middle, but ideally a little bit happier. So when you hover over this, like I am doing right now, it will tell you exactly where the problems are. So one is unreliable healthcare coverage. And this is in part because we have reduced the financing for our poor healthcare area. But they're also saying that taxes are high, and we are at 12%, so we could lower this by 1%. I don't think we're quite ready for that yet, especially since we have still a little bit of influx, and some of our meters are at least climbing, so that is overall good for us. But one thing that we need to focus on next is the elementary school. Elementary school is very important, and they do not have a walking distance to an elementary school, which makes sense because we haven't placed one yet. Once you click on this, you kind of see the highlights where the elementary schools are. Similar to healthcare and deaf care, when you click on this, they pop up, as well as garbage management. So we need to figure out where we're going to place our elementary school and how we're going to get a good amount of access to our people. Now, one thing that I had noticed, I didn't have all the expansion packs active, so I fixed that. And now we have actually a ton more to select. So none of these, again, are based on mods or any downloadable assets, and this is and should remain a vanilla guide. So we'll keep that. There are some that are relatively small. When you look into this one, for example, it is the Eastern European Elementary School. It only has a capacity of 100 students. So this will run up very, very quickly. Then we have the small elementary school, which I think comes with the base package. We do have the UK urban and so on. And I'm not going to go through all of them because it is a lot that is actually in there. So the Chinese one could actually be of interest. It's 800 students with 5,000 per month cost. This is the large one, which is too large for our little building area. We could also go with the French one, which has a capacity of 1,000. Let's click on the French again. And the French one would actually fit very nicely into this gap that we have right here, and will kind of be tucked away right behind our part of our commercial district. So this I'm actually quite liking. We also have the US Northeastern Elementary School. And this at least fits into this corner right here. Apparently not in this one. Okay. We could also place down the German one, and the German one is big, but it will actually perfectly fit into this corner right here. I like the style of the German building, but it might seem a little bit too big for this area, but not for long if we are starting to put some more medium density housing in this corner. However, if we're placing it like this, part of the elementary school is facing that large collector, and I do not like that. We could also place it over here, but I think that's going to be a little bit ridiculous. So let's see what else we have. We have another Eastern European one. We do have a city one, but not quite a city yet. And then we have the community one, which is relatively small and actually also quite nicely fits in here. The community one, 600 student capacity, but only costs $6,000 per month compared to the $1,000 student capacity from the French elementary school. So I think we're actually just, oh, let's have a look at the Mediterranean. That one would kind of fit in there, but we would lose this one commercial building that I placed here. So I think community elementary school it is. We're gonna place it right in the middle. And there we go. It will actually expand out a little bit since the sort of the newer packs, and I do appreciate that. It kind of feels a little bit more put together, although there seems to have been something going wrong with this corner over here. As you see, it is cut off. So now we've provided elementary school access to, and another signature building is available. Great. We've provided elementary school access to our citizen, and look at that, walking distance to elementary school is positive, and that is in part because we have a relatively high density in the neighboring streets, which means it's really close for them to actually end up at that elementary school. This elementary school has a little bit of an expansion or expansion availability. One is the community playground, which is external. We could actually place this further away, specifically into sort of the next grid area. Could even just face it right here and then fill the rest up. And they also have the extension wing, which adds another 150 student capacity, and that one is just added into the footprint of this building. So since we don't have access to parks yet, building an elementary school relatively early on, at least one that has a park with it, is a very easy way of getting some park access to your community. And I am now actually removing this one commercial building because I think it would be nicer if it is much closer or directly next to the elementary school right here. So we are going to place it right there. It will cost us another 20,000, but now we do have a soccer field or football field, as well as a couple of basketball courts, and this will be a great amenity for our community. So very excited about this. All right, we do need to work on the remainder of our demand bars over here. They are asking for more medium density housing, and I think we're just gonna fill this corner up over here. Well, in two ways. As you can see now, we have a ton more of these options. But let me actually try to find the original one. So we have the medium density row housing. So we're just gonna fill this up, just closing the gap. And we do have the medium density regular housing. I forgot which one we actually had placed over here. And I don't quite see how we can figure this out. So let's do a quick pause. This might be the Mediterranean, and it is. When you click on it and fill it in, so see how I'm at the bucket? If I fill it in and nothing happens, there's no like angry citizens, it means I have picked the right one, because I'm basically just placing the same zoning underneath the building that I had just placed. So we are going to place them down right away. And this should take care of our medium demand or medium housing demand. Now this will go down really quickly, so don't go to excessive lengths to tackle this medium density demand, as you will just overzone very, very quickly. All right. Now with the extra amenity here, we are actually paying more per month. So let's go into our service tab in here and actually reduce the financing also to 15%. Now they will not like it as you can see, the walking to elementary school has also gone down again into a -1, but it still works. And it still provides the benefit of education to our people around here. If we do that, we're actually spending $300 per hour less. Actually now $1,500 per hour less, which will definitely be beneficial for our community. All right. Now let's have a look, because we have a little bit of industry demand, and it is always worthwhile to look into these specialized industries, because this is the stuff you can also sell to the surrounding area and make a little bit of income. Now, this ore area over here is still something we want to expand to, but I think it's still a little bit too early to do so. So instead, we're gonna just zone. Another signature building has been unlocked, and this will keep popping up. If you have all of these expansion packs, it'll happen a ton. All right, anyways, we go in and place some more generic industry, making sure we're kind of keeping our distance from that main drag right here. So now I just placed 3 of them, relatively small, but it is again another start. And this way you slowly expand the city piece by piece, and have it grow quite nicely. We've also made it to a large village now, which is awesome, but the large village comes with additional challenges. Also another signature building. We should place these relatively quickly. First, we get some ore mining. Again, this is outside of our city boundaries for now, so we'll wait. But we do have fire rescue, so meaning we need a fire department. We also have the police and administration, so definitely a police building that we need to place, as crime will run rampant relatively quickly. All right, so with those 2 in, like I said before, we should try to place them relatively quickly, especially the police department. And again, we have a ton of options right here. What you want to look at is the combination between jail capacity and patrol cars that you see down there. You don't want to go too high, you don't want to go too large. So Northeastern Police Station, it is tiny and cute, so I do enjoy that. But it does only have a relatively small capacity, jail capacity, only 10. It does cost more per month and down payment compared to the German one, for example. So that is definitely an option. The small one would also work kind of okay. The UK one is a little bit too big, and so on and so on. The French one is humongous, and I think a little bit beyond the capacity of what we're really needing. Now, if you have the very base vanilla game without any of the updates, you might end up with that relatively large basic police station. And if you are trying this grid layout, feel free to delete these roads. They are just guidelines for now, and you just need to make it work for whatever build you want to do. All right, the Mediterranean one is also very, very large. So you know what? I'm not gonna keep looking around. We're gonna place the German one. And the recommendation in general is to not have it offload onto this collector, as it will cause traffic. So you wanna offload it onto one of the side streets. And for the police station, I like to keep it relatively close to our commercial area. So we're just gonna place it here. It is pretty well in the city center. Kind of works also with the buildings over here moving in this direction. So overall it will look nice. I will quickly pause because we do have a fire that broke out right here. Usually it takes a little bit longer before the fire breaks out, but stuff happens. So we do need a fire department, and the fire department, it is loud. And I like to keep it close to the industry area, not just because it is loud, but also when the industry area burns, this is the one that where fires can get out of hand really, really quickly. Because in some areas, that's actually a perfect example, this company, for example, requires chemicals, and when chemicals burn, you'll be in trouble. The game doesn't quite model this, at least not to my knowledge. So technically you don't need to worry about this. But again, I prefer this little bit of realism. So we do have the USA Northeastern Firehouse, which is reminds me a little bit of the Ghostbuster Firehouse. And it might have actually been modeled like this. This is very easy to actually squeeze into your existing city if you ever need to. But for now, we don't need to. Now, we have built the German police department. So I'm thinking we're also gonna have a look at the German firehouse. So this is 4 fire engine, that's not too bad. Let's have a quick look at the others. The Chinese is 3, Japanese is 3 as well. Let's have a quick look. Because we also, this kind of fits really well though. You know what? I actually want to keep this strip open for something that we're gonna do as a next step. So I think now is a good time for us to actually expand our road network a little bit. So I'm gonna continue our path up here just until we match this corner right there, and that will still allow us in the long term to actually have a relatively smooth curve up here. So what I mean with that is if you select it like this, put a curve in here, and you see it actually is just at the bottom of this ramp of the hill right here. So overall there won't be any slope if we place it, for example, just like this. We could do that right now. We don't need to, so I'm not going to do that. We're also gonna make this connection through here, and I'm gonna put a little road on this side right there, and that will give us enough space to place our German firehouse into this corner. Now the German firehouse is a corner building, so I want it to also look like this. So we're just gonna place it right there. Firehouse is in, it's a little bit in the middle of nowhere, but that is fine, and it immediately heads out to try to extinguish this fire over here. Another signature building, like I mentioned before, we'll be having a ton of these moving forward. And I think we do need to actually think a little bit more about additional connectivity into our residential area. So we do have our main drag here. It doesn't mean that we can't put in another drag over here, for example. So let's quickly do this. We're gonna use the complex curve tool. Go out, let's just say 80. Go out 80 more. And we're gonna connect this up until it basically snaps to the guideline up here. Here we go. And then we're just gonna smoothly move this in here, and all of a sudden we have a secondary connection that should be hopefully not too well used. But if it is, it would be mostly from our citizens trying to get home from work or to work in the morning. All right, we're now at 1,700 population. The immigration has slowed down, but our demand meter has gone up. So very similar to before, we're just gonna start zoning. With the low density housing, you can be a little bit more heavy-handed. So I'm just gonna keep zoning this entire area, and I had selected the wrong one. So sorry guys. We need to go back in here, select our EU low density housing, and just fill all of this up. So this can populate. Our demand meter is going down, and I'm letting it recover before I'm placing more. We're also gonna go in over here because we do have more medium density demand. So we are just gonna fill up these gaps that we had left last time. Just to make sure we don't have any real gaps in our city. So now all the row housings have been placed, and the medium density housing there's still demand. So let's go back into our Mediterranean zoning, And for now, just place this quadrant right here, and then we'll see how far it goes. We're also getting a little bit more of commercial demand, which is nice. But I think what we want to do is wait until we have the mixed use zoning category. So that will be 2 more milestones. But then we can start to replace our low density commercial areas right here. And I think our citizens will be happier for it. UK medium petrol station. I like the idea of a petrol station, so we are actually going to place it right away. And we are placing it on this corner right there. So let's go into our signature building, into the commercial area. I think it should be in here. Bookshop, small, medium. We do have a large one that might come up at some point. So for now, we're just going to place the medium one right here. And this is how our citizens will actually get gas right next to our industry area. Now, I had said before, I want to keep this relatively empty. This will actually not be too much of an issue. Let's keep zoning a little bit while we are already over here. And again, we're just scattering buildings around wherever we see a nice spot. Just a few of them, and that should very likely just remove all of the demand that we actually have. All right, a few more that we can place, so let's do it. Maybe a smaller one right here, a little bit bigger right there. I think you do want to, in general, keep them at least 2 units wide, because most of these buildings, I don't think they will actually spawn in. Yep, they won't spawn in if it's just 1 unit deep. So that is just something, again, to keep in mind. All right. Could keep zoning a bit more. So let's do it, because why not? It will help us with our finances, because keep in mind, this is where you get taxes from your industry, from your regular housing. And I need to stop now because these are not zoning in because we are out of demand. All right, we do have a little bit more medium demand, medium density demand. So we will keep moving on with our Mediterranean build. Place in another one of these. And we have more and more people moving in. So we're still losing money, and actually a good amount at that, but that is also because we can go in here and reduce the financing of our police and our fire department. Police, I like to keep a little bit higher at around 70%, so the crime rate doesn't explode. For the fire department, going down to 50% is usually okay. If you see fires breaking out and them not coping, don't wait too long before you increase the financing for your buildings again. Now, with 2,300 per hour in the negative, I think we need to figure out more stuff to build. And again, one thing that we always want to look into is our specialized industry, as it will help us produce more of what we need. So you could just place them randomly, but I think one thing that you will want to look at relatively early, as soon as you have it unlocked, is the production queue right here. It will tell you how much you're producing. Everything that is surplus, you're actually selling on the outside. Everything that's deficit, you are buying from the outside. So stone is a particularly important one, as it will be also used for buildings. So that is just something to keep in mind, unless they have changed it in the last patch, which I don't think that's the case. So this is our biggest deficit. So I think this is also what we should be focusing on. Now, the stone quarry should be able to go anywhere. But I think we are still building it kind of in this general direction, as this will become our kind of mining quarters, which again will help us in the future once we unlock, or once we enable the additional zoning area, or zoning area in this corner right there. I will put this on a little parallel street as to not have them offload directly onto this main drag. So while not technically completely necessary, I think overall it will, first of all, just look really nice. So let's place down our mining facility. Could have been nice to place it in a little bit of a diagonal, but I don't think we need to do this. We're just gonna expand this up here. Gonna make sure that we're using some of the terrain to make it look a little bit more realistic, but also keep a bit of a flat area in this corner, just to so we can pretend they have already kind of started digging this out. With the city boundaries, this looks a little bit awkward, but I think overall it is fine. If you want to make sure it looks a little bit better, feel always free to go into your terrain tool, click a target height, don't make it too tall, because it will look super strange. And then you can literally just click and create some little ditches, or even some further heights, not in terms of size, up here. Whoop, this was way too big, of course. So go a little bit mental, I want to say, and then start smoothing things out, right? So this way you get nice looking terrain in here that hopefully makes everything look a little bit more, well, I don't know if I would call it realistic, but like there are actually people working in there and, you know, digging stuff out. We are also gonna do this a little bit over here. Again, not too much. A little bit bigger is, oh, I'm actually still on the smoothing tool. Just to, as kind of like a dumping ground that they might be using. Nope, let's go a bit smaller, but a bit higher. Actually, we don't quite need that. So as you can see, when you look from the side, you can't quite tell until you actually zoom in. And then it looks, I think, much better, much more realistic compared to when you don't do that. All right, we've reached the 2,000 population milestone. So it is a good time to also have a look at our landfill. There's still a good amount of space, but that is something that we definitely need to keep an eye on, because this fills up very quickly. All right, we have put in the stones. Has this helped? It helped a little bit in terms of finances. Let's have a look into our production queue. We are now producing an excess of stone, which is awesome. And you don't need to completely go around and, you know, produce everything that you need. It is okay to import stuff. But it will ultimately help you balance out your budget. All right, so we are gonna go into the next part. And the next part will be a little bit of a forestry area. So I guess I didn't need to smooth this out, because the forestry area will actually be able to deal with this. Now with the forestry area, there are a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. When you place it, it's the number of trees that are under there that determine how productive it is going to be. So you want to improve overall the amount of trees that you have in that zone that you're aiming to get for your wood cutting area. Similarly as before, we're gonna put a little side street in there, and I think a dirt lane or dirt road in this case looks a little bit better. So the way you can work around this is you can place it, but not expand the area where your wood cutting facility is actually working on. And you can even, I guess you could try to make it a little bit smaller, but there's no real need for it. Okay, I have looked. These are oaks and birch trees. So you just go into your landscaping tool and plant, I want to say, just a variety of different different aged trees. We're gonna make this a little bit smaller, and then we're just gonna start filling out all this corner over here. So put down quite a few more oaks. You don't need to go to 100%. If it's at 50%, you can always switch it out and then place another tree area or a tree type basically in between, sort of filling in the gaps. And not only will it look a little bit nicer, I think overall, you know, actually, no, it'll just look nicer. You could just pick one particular one and just fill it all the way up, but you kind of don't have to do it. All right. With this, we have now put in enough trees, I want to say, to expand our forestry area. And our forestry area is going to utilize this entire space that we have now created for it. Let's make sure we can actually expand this to the road, and we will. Kind of maximizing this for now. We don't really need to do this, but again, I think with this particular kind of industry, it makes sense, and you will still... Oh, we have the large petrol station in here now. As I was saying, well, you don't need to do this. I think overall, with the woodcutting area, because it's a forestry area, you will still see the trees. Wait, why is this a wrong shape? Oh, I see. I still had that one node up there. All right, here we go. Wood cutting in. So all of this will actually start to produce wood. And when you hover or like click on this, you will actually see, while you move it, you will actually see how much resources you're actually covering. And I have picked a really bad example. Here we go. As you expand it, the resources increase, but with what we have right now, I think we should be fine. All right, this is another industry down, and we are, dealing with some more demand. So let's place it down. I'm gonna just keep our approach over here, put down our medium density housing right there. We do have a little bit of commercial demand, and because it will take a little bit longer until we actually unlock the mixed use area, I'm going to place a couple of these commercial buildings on the corners right here. Not on all of them, because I want to also have another look into our unique buildings, because we had actually a few of these buildings unlocked and ready to be placed. One, for example, is the bookshop. And that actually, it fits in perfectly right here. So we are placing it right here. Now this looks a little bit out of place with nothing on the other side, but we are still filling this up. So overall, we'll be fine. All right, next area that we can start filling up with our medium density housing. Put in a few more row homes. Just like that. Oh, hold on. These are not row homes. I have, again, selected the wrong type, which is a shame. Row housing, here we go. Put it all in here. Oh, shouldn't have unpaused. Here we go. Now they're already filling this up and our demand completely disappeared. All right. You have a bit more industry demand, and this is kind of what you're doing when you're playing the game, basically. You just look what demand you have, you're trying to accommodate whatever demand there is. And this has actually brought us to the Grand Village. And the Grand Village has a couple of interesting things. Well, first, espresso on the go. We definitely need some coffee. We have a district creation tool now. I'm wondering if we're going to leave that to the next time, and I think we will. Natural disasters are apparently unlocked. Excellent, so it's going to start now. Some low-rent housing, offices, which will be good, transportation, and parks and recreation. So for now, I will focus a little bit more. Well, first, we do have office demand, so let's place some offices. And I think offices are kind of a good buffer between your industrial area and your city area. So right here, we can actually very quickly extend this out, and this doesn't need to be the same lot size as your houses over here, right? So keep that in mind. You don't always need to keep the grid the same size, and I think it's actually more interesting if it's not. All right, we are going to connect this up over here. Now this has broken the grid a little bit, but ultimately I'm not too worried, because this zone in general, it doesn't like this particular part. I wonder why. I guess there's not a lot of traffic over here for now. So let's start in this corner right there. We're gonna place offices down. And again, you could just zone it all in and just see what grows. You know what, maybe we'll just do that. Because they do grow in different sizes, which overall will be quite nice. So this is our first little office area. Now I've specifically not attached this one here because I don't want to have another intersection through here, but I want to make sure that our pedestrians have a very easy way of crossing into this corner and accessing the office buildings right here. All right, we do have more housing demand. So let's go back and place more of our medium density housing. We do have our row homes right here. I'm gonna place them. This went a little bit too far. There we go. And then we're gonna just fill in these gaps over here. Still a ton more of medium density demand, so we're just gonna fill this up. And very importantly, we now have this new zoning type, which is the low density housing. You need to be very careful with this if you want your city to look reasonable, right? Because they will actually become insanely large. So we're trying to avoid this. I think we might actually, it doesn't really matter which one we're placing. So let's try some Eastern European style. So let's go ahead and first look what a 2x2 and a 3x2 looks like, as well as, 3x2 and a 3x3, just so you get an idea of the scale of this. Because again, this is very important if you want your city to look the part. All right. In addition to all of this, we have actually unlocked parks. Now we have this elementary school here with a park, which already helps our citizens. But it would be very nice of us to actually place a couple more parks in. And this is one thing that I really enjoy about City Skylines 2. They have these pocket parks where you can just fill in these gaps that you have. Well, if you find the right one. They all just want to face a different direction. So this is a canopy covered parquet. So let's not snap it to the road, and then let's have a look. If we place it like here, it is connected. It will not destroy any of this. No pedestrian access. Okay, I'll take it back. Sorry about that. So instead, we're just gonna use the really tiny, that's the one I just placed. We're gonna use the really tiny pocket parks and just place one right here, and look, it actually fits in very nicely. Actually, let's do something a little bit different. You can place them in here, so it is definitely a valid approach. What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna pause for a second, and we're gonna put an alleyway back here. Now here we need to be careful or quick, because this will be zoning in very, very quickly. This is a 3x3 park, but it does need to face the road again. So a very easy way of actually putting this in here, just connect this up and go into the park, make it face this direction. And look at that, we have a larger park that kind of feels like it belongs to that back area of that house, of those houses over there. I forgot to connect in that alleyway. And here we go. One park is in. And depending on how many parks you have, see that abundance of leisure time? This is directly related to how much activities they can do outside. All right, and this is our low rent housing. I actually like how small they are, the Eastern European. So let's just zone in 3x3s. Maybe not all the way to the end. And again, you can always vary how deep you want those houses to be. All facing this direction, which is fine, and later on we could even consider putting another maybe pedestrian pathway down this way. But for now, similar with the medium density demand, be careful, because this will very quickly be used up or disappear. The demand, not the housing, obviously. All right. Our offices are all in. We need a little bit more. So let's go ahead and place some houses over there. Not houses. Offices. They have gone a little bit too big for my taste, but we'll see how they are. And worst case is we're just gonna remove them. Low rent housing demand is still very high. So let's actually go in here. Like I mentioned before, we're going to place a pedestrian path through here. It is a good way of kind of using it up, and it should prevent traffic from going this way. So let's go in there and put down more of our low rent housing. And I'm just going to fill all of this up. Ooh, I need to make sure these are not too big. All right. With that, we are also in the plus with our money. We must have passed this while I was busy zoning. So that is okay. So overall, we're doing good with almost $500 per hour. 3,000 population. I don't think we're gonna make it to the 5,000 that I was hoping for in this run. But let's also have a look at what the issue is, why our demand hasn't come back. One issue is taxes. So let's go ahead and actually put the taxes down. One way, easy way of doing this, you can actually give different tax rates for different education levels. So we're gonna say 7 for the uneducated, 8 for the poorly educated, and then we're just gonna increase it by 1 for every single level. We don't have a lot of the highly educated right now, but this should overall help. Let's also reduce the amount of taxes for commercial and industry. With that, we're back in the negative, but this is an easy way to, or an easy thing to keep in mind that will ultimately help you. There is some crime going on, but the police is there. Let's look at the happiness. Walking distance to elementary school is now negative. It kind of makes sense. We have pretty high density here, and this is the elementary school right there. So you want to consider in the long term building more elementary schools moving forward. People are getting sicker though. So I also will go back in here into the services, healthcare, and set this up to 70%. Doesn't always need to be 100% immediately. So it will ultimately help. We do have quite a traffic jam in here. And I think it's time to have our first asymmetric road. Another thing that I really like with City Skylines 2 is asymmetric roads. So we're going to take that first part, put it in like this. Keep in mind that we will expand this later on in the long run. Now, this house has gotten a very long walkway, but overall it is fine. But with this asymmetric road, we should be able to set both of these to actually turn right. So instead, let's actually pick a different road type. Let's go to the medium one, pick the 4-lane asymmetric road, and put that into this category. And then let's turn this back into an asymmetric road as well. Need to remove the path that I had put in. A 4-lane asymmetric road, sorry, not just an asymmetric road. Here we go. Actually, this is just a bit overkill. Now, this is where a mod would be nice. I would like to have another dedicated turning lane here, but it won't let me. So, alright, bit ridiculous. Let's place it down anyways. And we do not want another building over here. So pause. Make sure our zoning here is gone. I'm surprised this is still here. Now, what does this look like? Now we have 2 right-hand turns, which is definitely useful. All right, put in our connecting path over here again. Although we now have this pedestrian road. I wish they had a smaller one over here, but I guess it's fine. All right, and that has removed some of the traffic, not in the other direction though. It has actually increased the traffic in the other direction. So let's go ahead and don't do the asymmetric road. After all, actually a 5-lane asymmetric is what we're really after. Here we go. Still 2 dedicated right-hand turns. And we have 2 lanes that are coming out over here. So that should deal with all of our traffic. Okay. Only losing $1,000 an hour, so that's not too bad. We have more demand for our low rent housing. So let's place some more. And they are actually not too bad in terms of height. They're just very long. So I'm okay with that. We'll place a few more of these down this way. All right, we also have more office demand, so we keep zoning in all of this. Also not too bad in terms of size, and definitely more industry demand, which is always appreciated. So let's place down some more industry buildings. And at some point, just like what I'm doing right now, feel free to just fill in all of the gaps, basically. Here we go. And that should deal with some of the demand issues. Nope, still have a ton of demand, so let's go actually just ahead and properly zone our industry area. With all the gaps that we have left, it's very easy to zone this in afterwards. So that is good for us. We're also going to place a few more of our office buildings right there. Kind of close to our low rent housing. The demand is still skyrocketing. So let's have another look at our issues here. Unoccupied buildings for the low density areas. And this is a little bit tricky. This is an issue that just happens every now and then. You can't just click on populations, and if you know where you zoned, they will actually pop up. And a simple trick to work with this, it's not a great one, but it does work. You actually just delete all the unoccupied buildings that you have. Everything over here is, well, not everything, but the majority of it is unoccupied. And look at that, the demand has come back and is already filling in. So this is kind of how you can deal with a stagnant area of demand. Not saying this is the best way to approach this, but it's definitely an easy way of finding a solution for that. All right, In addition, more demand for industry, so we keep zoning until we are balancing our budget. This is ultimately our goal. Medium density demand, I will actually wait with this, because at the next milestone, we should unlock the mixed use housing. And I'm very excited for that. But in the meantime, more industry demand, so let's just fill stuff up. Gonna put in a couple more smaller buildings here so we don't get just massive ones spawning in. Demand is all taken care of. And we do have more office demand, but I think I'm gonna leave that as is. But look at our low density demand skyrocketing right now. This is a mix between us reducing the taxes and dealing with the unoccupied building issue. Ideally, you never want to zone until this disappears, because this will just cause you issues in the long run. Still gonna fill in these gaps over here. Still have more demand, so let's place some more. And with that, we've eaten it all up, and I will stop. Getting close to being balanced though, so that is good. Some more industry demand. Let's place, or let's fill in this corner right here as well. Industry demand is still rising. So we're just gonna go around and do that for a little bit. Low density demand is still increasing. Place half of them right here. It is still going up. Let's place another half right there. And then we are going to move over in this direction and do the same thing over and over again. Need to leave a gap right here. Excellent. We do have now more industry demand, and we do have a little bit more of industry area that we can zone. I'm gonna make sure I leave a gap on the first road. Once it has spawned in, we can always fill this up with another building. Like now. All right, here we go. More low density demand. And this way, I think we're getting very close to filling up our low density areas over here. Now, this is not a ton of people, as you might be able to tell. But that's okay. And we're just gonna keep filling this up. All right. Although I do wanna just sometimes spam some in. All right, low density demand gone. Industry demand is still pretty high, and we are making money again. All right, balance the budget, dealt with education. The next one that we need to build is actually high school. I will leave that for the next time as well. We have also dealt or put in at least one park over here. I have lost the park. Where did it go? Oh, right here, which is relatively central. So that is definitely beneficial, and it will keep your people happier. The lack of entertainment, so we need more parks. We do have some more empty spaces here, so we can actually fill this up. Let's just place one more. Something that might make sense. Activity playground, a dog park would be kind of nice, but that we can actually place right here. So let's do it. Relatively central in the city. And then while we're at it, let's actually go in here. Remember the elementary school that had sort of these gaps on the side? This is where these more pocket parks actually come in quite useful. Now we just want to find one that has the proper size. which can be a little bit tricky. Actually, it doesn't necessarily need the proper size. We're gonna put both of these on the corners, and then we're just gonna go in and set a mini park on both sides. All right, here we go. And around our elementary school, all of a sudden, we have more park areas, which again, very beneficial. Look at them, already using some of the elementary school for outdoor activity. Looking very good. All right. Now, abundance of leisure time, we're good, we're still making money. And we've dealt with a ton of stuff. We're still not out of power. I mean, we're importing it. So I think next time we'll focus a little bit more on making our own power supply, because we are paying for our power import. When you look at this, import costs us $205,000. So we can definitely deal with this. And this is growing in nicely as well. And our city is ultimately taking shape. All right, with that, I'm going to end it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned something. Let me know in the comments of your thoughts and what you want to see. And I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.